So my name is Gabrielle Lods. I'm from Switzerland. I'm a chemical engineer by training. I've been an entrepreneur for the past 10 years. And I joined No Code somehow like 4 years ago, first for my projects, but so soon I started building like custom ERPs for small to medium-sized enterprises in Switzerland around sustainability and mental health. First, well, I must say I'm really feeling delighted to be here at this conference because, I mean, you guys are a unique bunch. I mean, you're curious, you're driven, you have cross-sector understanding, you are very talented at translating business needs. You almost like full stack developers in a sense, but with the business expertise on top, which is extremely rare actually. If you talk around, very few people have that skill set. So from the beginning, the promise of no code has been speed. We've been told, yeah, you can digitalize all your processes extremely quickly. In one afternoon, build a full database. In a weekend, digitalize your, automate all your processes for your organization of 100 people, no problem. It's going to go super quick, especially if you're not technical. And I'm like, great. I mean, I'm not here to dispute this promise, but I'm also here to say, beyond building faster, could we build deeper? And why would we do that, you're going to ask? And especially, why now? Well, very much indeed. It probably hasn't escaped to any of you that the political landscape at the moment is changing rather rapidly. We're noticing some public services across the pond that are getting dismantled quickly. So services that used to be taken for granted are disappearing somehow overnight. Medical guidelines that were used by professionals, even worldwide, are disappearing. I'm thinking of the ones around contraception, for example, suddenly gone. Large data sets that researchers were using, poof, suddenly no longer accessible, no warning. The funding for large international organizations is also getting short, so their scope has to get reduced. I'm thinking of the World Health Organization in Geneva that are reducing their budget significantly. It's impacting a lot of workers, and a lot of things are no longer getting done. Also, grants for research are no longer being awarded unless the research topic fits the political agenda. So it's really like things are moving quite fast. We do see a response from the EU around reducing dependency, increasing sovereignty, but I mean, building a comprehensive research ecosystem at European level, I mean, it takes time. It's not done overnight. Those knowledge bases that are disappearing, well, I mean, it's possible to kind of put them back together, but again, it takes time, and it's an issue because those favorite AI model we start to rely more on, well, they feed on those research, on those data. So it's becoming quite critical. And something I see no one talking about is, for example, in the tariff war. We could imagine the EU saying, I mean, you're starting to give us a little bit of a hard time. We could start taxing all the US tech services as a response. And all of us in this room would be significantly impacted if that does happen. So looking at this somehow card distribution combined with the technical expertise and the business expertise plus the curiosity of the people in this room, if you look at the tools and the maturity that some of those tools have reached, we're almost at the point where we can really start thinking, but I mean, there are big problems across the world, and we're at the stage where we can start addressing them. And one of this problem that is very close to my heart and also a significant part of the GDP of Switzerland is drugs. So let me introduce you to Susan. Susan, she's 71. She has pulmonary embolism and she takes 7 drugs per day. Like her, it's 800,000 people in Switzerland who suffer from what we call polypharmacy, so the fact to take 5 drugs or more per day. So it's about half of the people over 65. It's a big issue because it has a number of side effects. It affects cognition, they become incontinent, it increases the risk of falls, issues with nutrition. Also has environmental impact because 30 to 90% of those active ingredients end up in the toilet. So they come back in the water that we drink. They affect the fauna. I mean, some fishes are even changing gender, no kidding. And it's extremely hard to remove once it's in nature. Beyond that, there's also the money aspect. The polypharmacy in Switzerland is about 10% of healthcare cost. Around 60% of that is hospitalization, 40% is the drugs. So it's a rather big issue. There are ways to do what we call deprescription, so removing the drugs from what people take. There are guidelines in the scientific literature. Unfortunately, there are several hundreds. They're hard to understand. Usually physicians don't have time. It takes about 5 hours per patient if you want to do a thorough job. And there is a significant health error risk. And actually, it's really a pity, because if we were to apply those guidelines, we would save about 3 billion Swiss francs per year, and most importantly, prevent about 1,200 deaths. So again, significant impact. So I've put together a tool that's called Less Pills, very straightforward. So it's a polymedication review for people over 65. It's based on the literature. It's a form. You enter the drugs, the disease the person takes, the lab value if you have them. One day it will all come via API once we have the magical electronic record, but until then it's a form. Then it's processed by an algorithm. Data is stored in Switzerland because patient information. And you get a report saying, those are the drugs you could remove. It explains to you why, with like an understandable language. So if you're a patient with limited scientific understanding, but it also provides all the links to scientific literature so your doctor can make an educated decision. So if you come back to Susan, she would go from 9 drugs per day to 7 drugs per day. Yay! And also she'll be less constipated, which, I mean, no joke, can make a significant impact on the quality of life. Plus save 1,300 Swiss francs per year, never a loss. So to do that, I had to gather so much data. Like around the diseases, around the active ingredients, all the drugs, connect them, the pharma codes, codify all the recommendation, the prescription. So it's a massive knowledge base and it's proprietary. Tech stack, for those who are interested, is Baserow, NA10, self-hosted for the patient data, and Airtable software make for the publicly available part. Well, coming back to the original question, is like, how do we tackle those billion-euro problems? Because there is no shortage of them. I mean, climate change, access to healthcare, food security, rise of new diseases, conflicts, misinformation. I mean, you pick. So first, the blueprint that we all seem to have experienced with our clients, it works the same, slightly bigger scales, but the principle remain. So deep understanding of the stakeholders between what they tell you they need and what they don't tell you they need. Strong architecture, own your core data, either business, organizational, but especially in the funny climates we're reaching, owning is key. Modular and adaptable, make sure there is redundancy in case the shit hits the fan, because we never know. And make sure it's interoperable, which is especially key for those large projects, because not only might you get data from outside, but you might also, outside organization will connect to yours. And you need to make sure both in terms of data format and in terms of the data type, like the right unit, the right code, etc., are being used, so they're being useful. And most importantly, expect change. So that's for that kind of the project management side of things, building thing. This is all great. But I mean, tackling those big projects or those big issues, usually they're kind of somehow already served by large legacy institutions, and they don't always tend to be delighted by new enthusiastic newcomers. So it's important to prepare. First one is have a strong understanding of all the inefficiencies. Where are the bottlenecks? Who is being underserved? Because in most of those cases, the people who beneficiate from the solution are not always the paying users. So really understand those. Figure out Where is the waste? Who's being frustrated? Who's not being heard? Then map the power. All those legacy institutions, they might rely on financial power, maybe logistical, infrastructure, maybe it's legal, maybe it's reputational. It's really important to have a detailed understanding of who holds what. Now, and then you have that. Look at your project. Let's look at our project. Like, where is the power that we hold, and have a detailed understanding of that. Then once that's the case, we can start leveraging this asymmetry and see, with the limited resources we have, where is the gap? Where can we fit? What can we address that's being completely ignored? And design for defensibility. I mean, since sometimes starting to poke the bear, well, it can lead to reactions. Mapping those potential reactions or attacks in advance, and like having a thorough risk assessment, a detailed strategy, and implement the strategy to kind of fight that back is key. Not to do it last minute when the shit really is hitting the fan. Like I said before, the people beneficiating from those solutions might be underserved, underprivileged, maybe underpowered, but if you manage to reach out to them strategically, you can really build strengths in numbers. Ooh, sorry. Then remove, or if not possible, diversify your dependencies. Do you have a single source of funding? Sorry. Do you heavily rely on a given API, on a very specific AI model that can suddenly be turned off overnight, or some policy somewhere decides that some topics should no longer be covered in the model? So try to diversify. Same with service providers. And finally, with the goal to become anti-fragile. So really strive in chaos. So implement feedback loop. Make sure you have slack in the system. So if suddenly you get nudged, not the entire operation doesn't fall back. So it's possible. So remember, like, we managed to send people in space with literal panels of just switches. So think of the solutions, the tools, the mindset that we have. Let's do it. Thank you.